Let me start with a quick scenario. Imagine your friend says, I'll sell you my car for 30,000 ringgit Malaysia. You say, okay, deal. You shake hands and then the next day he changes his mind. Is this a contract? Can you sue him? Or was it just a casual promise? To answer this, we must understand what actually makes an agreement becomes a legal contract. And that's exactly what Chapter 3 is about. The 8 essential elements that turn simple promises into binding obligations. These are the elements of legal contracts, including proposal and acceptance, considerations, intention to create legal relations, certainty, legal capacity, free consent, legality of objects, require formalities. Let's begin with the heart of contract formations, proposal and acceptance. A proposal is simply an offer. For example, A offers to buy B's car for 100,000. Once B accepts, an agreement is formed. But not everything you see is an offer. Some things that are merely invitation to treat, meaning it invites you to make an offer. Examples include price lists, advertisements, goods display in a supermarket. A famous case Pharmaceutical Society versus Boots tell us that picking an item from a shelf is not acceptance. The actual contract happens only at the cashier. Why? Because the shop must still decide whether to sell to you or not. Another important point is that a counter offer is not acceptance. So for instance, if I say I will sell you my laptop for 3,000 ringgit Malaysia, and you say I'll take it for 2,500 ringgit Malaysia, you have rejected my offer and create a new one. So under Section 7, acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. A counter offer kills the original offer. Let's move to the considerations. So this is one of the most misunderstood elements. Section 26 actually mentions an agreement made without considerations is void. This means that both parties must give something of value. For example, A sells his house for 100,000 ringgit Malaysians. B's promise to pay is the considerations for A's promises to sell and vice versa. Even returning a lost cat can be consideration because you have performed an act in return for a reward. There are exceptions, such as agreements made out of natural love and affection or past voluntary acts, but the general rule remains no considerations, no contract. Next, intention to create legal relations. Not every agreement is meant to be legally binding. So, example, I promise to belanja you Milo Ice tomorrow. That's not a contract. But business agreements, there's a presumption that legal consequences are intended unless stated otherwise. That is why social promises cannot be enforced, but business promises can. Under Section 11, a person must be of majority age, of sound mind, and not disqualified by law. Minors cannot usually form contracts except for necessities, scholarships, insurance, and apprenticeships. This protects young people from exploitation. Now let's look at the free consent. Under Section 40, Concern is actually cannot be caused by coercions, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake. And this is crucial because contract obtained through pressure or deception is not valid. For example, forcing someone to sign a contract, coercion. A parent influencing a child unfairly, undue influence. Lying about the conditions of a house, a horse, fraud. Making a false statement innocently, misrepresentation. And both parties mistaken about a dead horse, void for mistake. Free consent ensures fairness. A contract must be certain, and under Section 30, vague agreements are void, saying that I'll sell you 100 tons of oil. But what type of oil? Palm oil, crude oil, cooking oil. If it's not clear, it's not enforceable. The object of the contract must be legal. So under Section 24, any agreement involving fraud, harms, immorality or public policy is void. For example, paying someone 1,000 ringgit Malaysia is to secure a government job is unlawful. Finally, formalities. Most contracts must be verbal, except when statutes require writing, such as hire purchase agreements, which must be written. Void versus voidable. A void contract has no effect at all from the beginning. For example, contracts with minors, contracts with unlawful objects, contract based on mutual mistakes. In void contracts, you cannot pass ownership because you have nothing to pass. Avoidable contract, however, is valid until the innocent party chooses to avoid it. Examples include coercions, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation. And this is why understanding consent is so important. To wrap up, every contract, whether it is for buying land, hiring contractors, or purchasing materials, must satisfy three key elements: proposal and acceptance, consideration, intention, certainty, capacity, free consents, legality, and formalities. Once you master this, you can interpret, negotiate, and draft contracts confidently and avoid costly disputes later. Okay, thank you. And I hope this section helps you to see how contracts actually truly works in the real project management.